All right, let's do it, y'all. It's the Ty Butler Show. We're streaming live on YouTube. We are cooking on Twitter. Hit me up at Ty D Butler. As we get it popping on this Monday afternoon, turn evening here in New York City. And listen, the football season right around the corner. A lot of talk show hosts are getting their final vacation days in, but we're here grinding. We're here grinding, not just me, but my boy Matt O'Leary, who does a tremendous job as a Jet content creator. He's got the Just Jets podcast. He's got Up the Turnpike. He's on tomorrow from 8 to 10 on the Talking Jets show, and he's kind enough to join us on the program. Matt, what's up, my man? What's going on?
Not too much, Ty. We almost made it to football season. It was a long off season, but I am ready for some football.
Yeah, so preseason game week 2 didn't do it for you?
It doesn't quite scratch the itch, the preseason. I got to tell you, it helps a little bit. It's better than nothing, but not all the way back.
All right, so on my radio show yesterday on ESPN New York, I said I'm not going nuts about a preseason game. Like, that would be ridiculous. But, and we'll start here. For the Jet fan, it is encouraging to watch Geno Smith on that opening drive go 7 for 7, hit 5 different receivers. The offensive line was blocking, doing an excellent job. They end with the touchdown. It was encouraging to see that because this last week, Connor Hughes, who covers the league covers the Jets and the Giants, my colleague over at SNY, said that Geno looked timid. And so I pull up Friday night. I feel good about what I saw. It's not the end all be all, but it's something, right?
Yeah, no doubt. I think, going into that game, we didn't get to see Geno in week 1 of the preseason. So I think we just wanted to see some signs of what the offense could be. And really couldn't have gone any better. He was, 7 of 7 completions to 6 different receivers. And I think that's what you want to see out of the Jets offense this year. Yes, they have Garrett and Breece Hall, the names that we're all familiar with. And they've really been the workhorses in that offense. But, they've added a lot with the A.D. Mitchell acquisition last year in the Sauce Gardner trade and drafting Omar Cooper. And eventually Kenyon Sadiq will make his way back. It just feels like this Jets offense finally has multiple ways to attack you. And we were able to see that on the opening drive against the Steelers.
Yeah, and it was good to see Geno battling that sore ankle after, as you just said, missed the preseason opener, come out there and look comfortable. And a lot of people, I'm starting to see this wave of optimism about this offense because of all of the weapons, but it is going to come down to what we see from Geno Smith at age 35, coming off of a year where he led the league in interceptions. And I think he's fighting for his life as far as being a starting quarterback in this league. And so what's your level of confidence in him? To me, because I haven't seen him have a good season since 2022, I don't know that I'm expecting 2015 Ryan Fitzpatrick. I don't know that I'm expecting a lot. But if you can get average quarterback play with this offensive line and Frank Reich cooking some stuff up on the sidelines, I think the offense can, at the very least, be entertaining, which is what we're looking for.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't think, it's reasonable expectations to think he can get back to the Seattle days because, at his peak, you're talking about 3-4 years ago at this point. And obviously he wasn't very good in Vegas last year. I think he's probably somewhere in the middle between what he was last year in Vegas and what he was in Seattle. I just look at the situation that he was in with the Raiders, and it was a disaster pretty much from day one. The offensive coordinator didn't seem very interested in being an NFL offensive coordinator anymore. Brock Bowers gets hurt, and they trade away their best receiver in Jacoby Myers. Their offensive line wasn't very good. They had a rookie back who was just getting his feet wet in the league and really didn't get up to speed as quickly as they thought. So, I think maybe with the Jets, and this is very rare to say, they might be in a position where they have the players at the skill position that can maybe elevate the quarterback play a little bit rather than the other way around.
Yeah, and also Pete Carroll, we saw the game had passed him by. That Raiders team was such a disaster. Their defense was a mess. They couldn't run the ball on first down, and so it forced Geno into a lot of pass happy situations. Not that he doesn't deserve some of the criticism because he's the quarterback of the team. But I do find myself fascinated that in this situation, that is I perceive to be better than last year. I think that we can certainly see him take a stride in the right direction. Let's get to week one because our guy Jake Asman has been all over. Week one's a must win, and at first when he said this like I want to say like 2 months ago, I said, bro, you're wilding. Like it's week one. Like upsets happen all over the place in week one. So I'm not gonna overreact to what I see in that game. But then the more I look at it, and then you see the upcoming schedule where you've got the Packers, you've got the Lions, and you've got the Bears. I'm just like, man, especially with what we saw from the Titans yesterday. If you win this game, it kind of changes the complexion of the season because all of a sudden, the 3 straight losses that we see happening 2, 3 weeks 2, 3, and 4, you're like, I don't know, maybe we can win one of those games. Maybe we can, dare I say, win 2 of those games, particularly coming into that if the offense and the defense are playing well. And so I think it's a massive game, especially with the whole Robert Saleh element. But just coming out of the gate, punching a team in the mouth, one of the more winnable games on the schedule, quote unquote, to show that these aren't last year's Jets, and it got to have a season for Aaron Glenn. So as silly as it is to say, I kind of do think week one's a must win.
It's about as close as you have to a must win in week one. And that, I think people are getting tied up on the phrasing of that must win, but you look at the schedule like you just laid out, you have 3 teams right in a row in the NFC North who are all, going to be teams likely fighting for playoff positioning. And unfortunately, you saw it last year. They had a game against the Steelers in week 1,
Yeah.
a game they probably should have won. They didn't, and like the season just went completely off the rails after that. And I just don't want to see this team be in a similar position because then it starts to snowball. If they drop week 1 in Tennessee, then you lose the NFC North games. Well, you finish September 0-4, and it looks like your
Yeah.
season's already over before it got a chance to start. So I'm with you on that. I think Tennessee is definitely a winnable game for this Jets team. I think it's a super important game for them to get early on in the year.
It's also a gut punch for the fan base watching Cam Ward with Dable and Salah, in theory, carve you up because, yeah, I say that the game could be lost 7-3, but you understand what I mean. And, speaking of last year, I was so mad watching all the Jet fans on my timeline take a victory lap after that performance against the Steelers. Like, whoa, we almost won the game and treated it as some moral victory. And I'm just like, for an organization that is amongst the 3 worst teams in the last decade as far as win percentage, I'm far past the moral victory part of the equation. Like I'm just not there anymore. And so it was a gut punch because they should have won that game. They had a special teams blunder, and then Rodgers marches down the field and wins the game. And so if we see this same thing happen against Tennessee, I'm with you. I just vehemently disagreed with at this point in our Jet timeline feeling like, oh, we lost a game, but we still kind of won.
Yes, I mean, it was bad enough, like you said, last year. You can't do it now. In year 2 with Aaron Glenn, his job's on the line. It's been very well documented why his job is on the line this year, and there are no moral victories for him. And I don't think there's any more excuses either. I know at the end of last year, the last 5 games, I mean, the roster and the team they were putting out there was just an absolute joke. And this year they spent a lot of money in free agency. They had the 3 first-round picks. He's calling the defense. It's not Steve Wilkes' defense anymore.
Yeah.
With the amount of talent that they have that they added, this shouldn't be a 3-win team again. And if it is, well, then that's a reflection on the coaching staff, I think.
All right. So that brings me to another subplot here because I saw Connor Hughes and Jake, I don't want to say going at it, but having a disagreement because Jake is of the mindset, Jake Asman, who was my colleague at ESPN New York, is of the mindset that let's just say this season goes south. Glenn gets fired. Mougey picks his head coach, and then off we go. And I'm still, and maybe it's just the skeptic in me as a fan of this team, I'm still waiting for Darren Mougey to prove to me that he's a good general manager. I understand getting all the draft assets and then arming him with $100 million of cap space next year, but they won 3 games a year ago. If they follow that up by winning 3 games again or 4 games, and you've missed back-to-back seasons on the quarterback, I'm not convinced you're the answer at general manager. So again, he's made some excellent trades, and we'll see what these draft picks that have high upside ultimately become. David Bailey's having a heck of a camp, and he picked up a sack in that game against the Steelers. Sadiq, we unfortunately haven't been able to see. Omar Cooper Jr., I know some fans are like nervous about his spot on the depth chart, but I think he will be good. All of that to say, it's still all speculation. We're still projecting. I don't know that we can just bake in Darren Mougey as the general manager going forward without seeing how this thing unfolds. What say you?
I totally agree with you. I don't really get why it seems like, and look, like I'm not giving a pass to Aaron Glenn on last year. He was also really bad, but it feels like fans are quicker to turn historically on the coach than they are the GM. I think a very similar thing happened with Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh, where everyone was ready to build Joe Douglas a statue after the
Yeah.
2022 draft, and he never won more than 7 games here. So I have liked a lot of the things that Darren Mougey has done, but like Aaron Glenn, I want to see the results on the field because if they are a 3-4 win team this year and they're deciding to pull the plug on Aaron Glenn, that's fine. But I don't think Darren Mougey would have shown me enough through the 2 years where I go, oh yeah, he gets to hire his own guy, he gets to pick the quarterback, all that stuff. Because if they are a 3 or 4 win team this year, yeah, the coaching staff probably had a lot to do with that, but I would imagine the roster had some significant deficiencies too.
Yeah, like we saw them at the last month of the year last year make history because they were just getting bludgeoned like week after week. And look, they kind of conceded that the season was over, and so they traded 2 of their best defensive players. But the results to me like have to matter. And so look, I'm not high on Aaron Glenn. I from the get-go was just not someone buying into this whole act, and I was very critical of his handling of the media, and by the way, was proven to be right, and I felt vindicated when he did that exclusive with The Athletic last week and admitted as much. And so, look, he has another year to prove himself, and so I'm going into this season hoping that he does. But if I ask you, like, gun to your head, like, is he the head coach next year?
I think it's probably more likely than not that he isn't the coach next season. I want Aaron Glenn to work out, and I'm not like completely ready to pull the plug just yet, but he is on life support right now
Yeah.
with his head coaching tenure, and there is a lot to prove this year. And I don't even know if there's like an exact win total I think he needs to get to. A lot of it's going to
Because
be
that's what I was gonna ask you. That's funny.
yeah,
So go
I
ahead.
think I was gonna say, I think a lot of it's gonna be eye test for me, right? Like not all 7 and 10 seasons are built the same. So I think it depends on how they get there. Are they getting blown out? Are they in games? Are they winning in the division? Are they 1-5 in the division and beating up on teams backups the last 3 weeks of the year? There's so much really that goes into it. It's hard for me to put a hard line in the sand that this has to be the win total. If it's above it, he stays. If he's below it, he goes. I think a lot of it's going to be eye test for me, honestly.
Yeah, and that's a great point, and it's one that I've made when, people ask me, like, "How many wins do you need to see?" And it's hard to say, especially in the NFL, because you look at the Jets' schedule, there is a legitimate path to 6 wins, and when I say that, you're like, "Oh, I'll take 6 wins," but then you think, "The Dolphins stink. Those are 2 wins." You've got the Browns in week 5. You've got Arizona, that's a team that's not trying to win. You also have the Raiders, right? The Raiders, I think that might be, what is that, week 9? Or it
Somewhere
might be
around there.
week
Yeah.
7, and it also might be Fernando Mendoza's debut if Clint Kubiak decides Kirk Cousins is going to be a starter. And then opposite of what we saw last year. You get a week 18 game against the Bills with nothing to play for. And instead of Mitch Trubisky carving you the hell up, you win that game. And so it's difficult for me to just put a number on it. So I tend to lean on the side of how, and it's not the best answer for talk media, but how does it look? Like your defense got embarrassed last year. So are they cooking? And it's the simple things like tackling, right? Like they struggled tackling. They obviously had 4 takeaways the entire season. We saw them have a couple of interceptions Friday night, which where they had 0 last year. So all of the defense has to be better, and your offense has to be humming. And if that ends with you losing on a late second field goal to Kansas City, to the Chargers, because that's a tough stretch. You've got Kansas City, the Chargers, and the Bills 3 straight weeks in a row. Like if that ends with a loss to Caleb, who's he has that fourth quarter magic, then I understand. But if it's just 6 wins and you're going up against the dregs of the league, I can't say that you're making progress, even though technically from a win-loss standpoint you did.
Yeah, they would have doubled their win total at that point, which is just shocking when you put it that way. But you're right. Like, I don't know, against those good teams, just using an example, are you down 20-3 at the half to Buffalo? Like that's not good enough to me. Now, if you lose because they're a better team than you and they have Josh Allen there in the playoffs every year, I can live with that. But are you in these games? Are these teams clowning you? Like, again, that brings me back to the eye test point. I think a lot of it is going to depend on what they look like week in and week out.
All right, so coming into this season, through what we've seen so far in training camp, are you higher on the offense or the defense?
I actually think I'm higher on the offense, which isn't usually something I'm used to saying watching this team and covering this team. It's usually the defense that's a little bit further along. But I still have some question marks on the defense. You look at the linebacker room. I love the addition of Demario Davis, but Jamie Sherwood wasn't very good last year. I don't think their depth is very good beyond that. I don't think they have a true number 1 corner. I'm worried about whoever's playing safety next to Minkah Fitzpatrick. Where on the offensive side of the ball, I think the biggest worry for me is Geno. And if he's the 20th best quarterback in the league this year, I think with the line that he has and
Yeah.
the running game and the weapons, like they should have somewhat of a functioning offense this year. But defensively, and especially if, DeMario at his age, if he gets banged up, I think they could run into some issues on the defensive side of the ball.
This feels like a team that, despite all of the weapons we rave about, wants to be a run heavy group because it's in the DNA of all the Jet teams that we've seen of the past that were good outside of 2015. In 2015 they had a decent run game, but those Rex Ryan years, it was they pound the rock, and then they're excellent on defense, great offensive line. So it kind of fits the profile. I'm a little bit worried about the Breece Hall stuff because groin injuries don't just disappear, man. And like I saw him sprinting today, which was an excellent sight. But I just have my worries in this violent sport where you've got to move laterally and you're the number 1 back. Because if I like Braylon Allen, I don't like Braylon Allen as the number 1 back on this team. And so I'm a little concerned about this injury to Breece Hall.
Yeah, me too. I agree with you. A groin injury is something that could linger. And even though, it was on the lighter side of the scale, right? It wasn't completely torn. It was just a strain. Good news in the moment. But like we said, that's something that could kind of hang around for the season. And yeah, you have Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis, who are, okay players, but you feel better about them as depth options. I don't think you'd feel great about either guy being your lead back. So, they might have to get creative at that point. And with Geno, I think they're looking to protect him a little bit. I don't think they are necessarily going to want to ask him to throw the ball 35 plus times a game and win games with his arm. So it put them in a really tough spot if Breece Hall isn't 100%.
And then another thing too is, and this is the ghost of Jet seasons past, this damn kicking competition. Because we saw Zerline a couple of years just fall off an absolute cliff. And I still it still keeps me up at night thinking what that Jet season could have been if he can just hit some kicks. There's a completely different feel to it. So the kicking situation, do you think that their current or their kicker for the year is currently on the roster?
I don't feel great about it, honestly. I would have said that Jason Sanders is gonna end up winning this job, but, I mean, he was 205 today, and it's not like
Yeah.
he's been stellar throughout training camp, but, they might have to try to find someone off the scrap heap, and, it really stinks that, Nick Folk leaves in free agency. He gets a 2-year deal to leave. It felt like the Jets weren't comfortable going for that extra year with him, but, I never really thought Cade York was gonna be the answer, just with how he looked in Cleveland and Cincinnati. It didn't seem like someone who was going to end up winning this job. And the funny thing with Sanders is he's had some success in this league, but he was hurt all of last year. And I wonder if
Yeah.
that's still playing a factor. So they very well could be looking to add another kicker at this point.
All right, we got someone chiming in on YouTube. Do you think a mid-season firing is possible, and if so, at what record? Here's the deal, and this is to me a very underrated storyline, uh, either underrated or maybe I'm making too much of it, just because it's like the how my brain works. If you go to the 4 games before the bye week for the Jets. So the Jets bye week comes week 13. The 4 preceding games are at Kansas City, home for Buffalo, at the Chargers, at the Dolphins. I think right now, based on what we project the season to be, and they're going to be, I would say, double-digit dogs, and maybe 2 or 3 of those games, we would all imagine the Jets are losing to Kansas City, Buffalo, and the Chargers. Not saying that it's definitely going to happen, but as it stands, like those are the better teams. So if that's the case, Matt, and then they follow that up by going to Miami, and let's say they have an embarrassing performance where they get their ass kicked, headed into a bye week, we are going to spend the next 13 days thinking, when's Aaron Glenn getting fired? Because if the season starts to unravel and I give you that 4-game losing streak headed into the bye, I think that's where it happens. Now, the retort to that, and I'll get your answer. The retort to that is if they've gone off the rails, just keep Aaron Glenn in place because you want the best draft pick possible. But the fan base is going to be clamoring for this dude to go. And we know Woody Johnson loves to consume himself some sports talk media. He listens to the fans. And so I think if that worst case doomsday scenario happens and they lose that game, that's where we could see Aaron Glenn get ousted.
Yeah, I think under the scenario you just laid out, that would probably be the most likely spot in season. I don't think he is going to get fired during the year. And my reasoning behind that is twofold. One, you got the side that you just laid out. If things are going off the rails anyway, and you're trying to get your quarterback, then kind of just ride it out and kind of see where you end up. But the other side is I think Woody Johnson got a lot of heat for firing Robert Saleh in season a few years ago in 2024. And that's not something he ever did through his ownership until Robert Saleh was fired. And I wonder if he just way over course corrects the other direction and it's like, all right, we're just going to let this thing play out. I don't want to deal with the in season change. And if that's the case, kind of just ride it out with Aaron Glenn for the rest of the year at that point.
You don't foresee us in that, and I agree because to me, like the biggest embarrassment, and it is indicative of poor ownership, is your decision to fire a head coach after 5 games means that you were leaning that way already, like during the off season. So you should have just done it. And if you watched how they lost those 3 games, I would argue it wasn't coaching. Their kicking situation was a disaster. And so that's why it didn't make sense. But I guess the other point, the counterpoint would be in firing Glenn, people were like starving to see what Frank Reich looks like as a head coach. So do you give him that final, what is it, 5 games of the year, Denver, Arizona, New England, Minnesota, Buffalo, to kind of audition for the job?
Yeah, I don't know if there would ever be enough for him to show me like enough through those 5 games to make me want to bring him on as the next head coach. I just think that it would be a clean house scenario. They do let either, and like we talked about, either Darren Mougey hires his guy or you go from square one, new GM, new head coach. So it would depend on what they want to do there. But I would be surprised if Frank Reich is the next coach of the Jets realistically. So I don't think it would really matter too much. I don't know how many fans are going to be clamoring for Frank Reich to coach this team.
All right, it's the Ty Butler Show. We are streaming live. We are on Twitter and YouTube. So like, share, and subscribe. We are talking New York Jets. Is it a must win? Must win in week one for Aaron Glenn. We are also all over some of the storylines headed into the season. Before we wrap up here, I got a couple more questions for you. What were some of your biggest takeaways? Because we talked about the opening drive from Geno. David Bailey has a sack. What were some of your takeaways from Friday night?
Yeah, I think one of the things, and we hinted at it a little bit earlier, the Omar Cooper narratives of where is he actually falling on the depth chart. And he was out there with the ones and had a catch on that first drive. So I was happy to see that. And just overall in general, too, defensively, something that I've noticed not only in the Steelers game, but in these first two games, their missed tackle rate has gone way down. And it's something that I think they've put an emphasis on during training camp and really trying to improve in that area. And that's something that I hope carries over into the regular season because, whether it was over the years, Tony Adams or, Jordan Whitehead at safety or, whoever, Quincy Williams last year, that's been an issue for this Jets defense for a little bit. So, maybe that could be a positive sign of things to come in the regular season for this defense.
Yeah, even Sauce Gardner, as much as we loved him, like he was terrible at tackling. So as we move forward, what are your thoughts on Cade Klubnik? So I found myself, and it's not like I want to rain on people's parade. Like if you're a Jet fan, you're just thirsty, right? Like you're just looking for something to be excited about. And so the Cade Klubnik story had some legs. He went in that opening game, it was 5 of 7, and Garrett Wilson makes the awesome catch. And so now people are starting to, buy some Cade Klubnik stock. But I just, the furthest I could go was, all right, I'm intrigued. Like I'm fascinated to see what this looks like. He's not QB1 like some ridiculous trolls on the internet were clamoring for. And I still was having a hard time believing that he was the backup because it's like, hey, week one, you're just one hit away from having to come into the game. And as we talked about, what is a really important game for the Jets and try to save what could, derail them. And so, where are you on Cade Klubnik? I still would like the Jets to add a veteran, and which obviously still could happen with the 53-man roster coming your way this weekend. Where are you on Cade Klubnik?
I would feel better if they added a veteran quarterback also. I don't get the feeling that that's what they're going to do. I think they are comfortable with Cade Klubnik as QB2. I never really understood why so many people were, like you said, clamoring for him to be the starting quarterback. I think he's had a up and down training camp, and I thought he was okay against Pittsburgh. It wasn't as flashy as it was the first go around. And, that's fine. This is a day 3 quarterback. He was a 4th round pick for a reason. And I don't think it's fair to rush him. I think you'd be putting him in a tough situation if he did have to come in and play early on in the season. And I think it's better for his development if he has a redshirt year. So I don't want him to be one hit away from coming in, but it feels like that's the direction the Jets are going.
All right, so let's go just quickly around the NFL. Who do you like in the AFC to come out?
I'm a big Baltimore guy. Every year, I know they can't seem to get over the hump, but
Maybe this is the year. Jesse Minter, he's the missing link.
I really like him as a head coach. I think that defense is going to get back to looking like we're used to in Baltimore. And it feels like every time people start to count out Lamar Jackson, he comes back a little bit more. So I think Baltimore's in for a big year.
Yeah, I'm a big Lamar fan. And so I would like to see him finally get over that hump. My biggest concern, and they add Jacoby Lane, who I think could be a really good weapon for them. Bateman's going through some legal issues, so we'll see how that affects them. My biggest concern, Matt, for Lamar, as someone who really likes him, like, does he listen to the noise from the media that he can't win from the pocket, and now he starts to change his game? because we have seen the numbers would indicate he's not running as much. Now, last year, you can kind of just throw it away because he was hurt. Every week he was on the injury report and had a different injury, the hamstring, the ankle, the back. But is he going to be one of those guys who just wants to show the world I can win my way? And that would be my biggest concern with him. But yeah, I do like Baltimore. I for some reason have this sneaky feeling Buffalo, because I got the Knicks thing in my mind. So is
Okay.
Buffalo kind of in that drought, which would be a disaster. Like, are you obviously, like, being the Jet guy? Like, would it crush you to see the Bills win the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I don't ever want to see a Jets rival or AFC East team win. It was bad enough when New England was winning every year. I do, of the other AFC East teams, Buffalo's the one that I could kind of tolerate because they've been
Really?
through it for, well, I'm a Jets, Islanders, and Mets fan, so I've seen a lot
Yeah.
of losing. So I could kind of relate to the fan who's been through it all, and I think they're a good fan base. Don't get it twisted. I'm not rooting for Buffalo or anything like that, but I would rather they win than New England again, I could tell you that.
Oh, so I was rooting against, because there was a possibility we could get a Buffalo New England AFC Championship game, and I'm just like, man, like, in that instance, you have to root for the team that you don't think can win the Super Bowl. So
Okay.
root for whoever you think the inferior team is. All right, NFC, everyone's all over the Rams. Now I'm starting to get a little skeptical, because when everyone's betting one way, that tells us some things can happen. So if I told you, just aside from the Rams, who do you like in the NFC? Where are you going?
It's hard not to go back to Philly, and I know, like, they have, like, there's always questions with Jalen Hurts, and they lost some pieces, but just year in, year out, like, that's still a really deep roster that they have there. I'm a big Devontae Smith fan. I think he's gonna have a good year, as the number one in that offense, and, if Saquon gets back to form, I think they could kind of, take advantage in that division that it should be competitive, but I'm not as high on the Giants and Washington as some other
Mm,
people are.
okay.
Dallas, I think, will be competitive, but I don't really trust Brian Schottenheimer as a head coach. So I think the Eagles take the division, and if it's anyone but the Rams, just because of the history, like, they've been there and done that recently, I would trust them come playoff time.
Yeah, I'm with you. I still think Hurts is one of the most disrespected quarterbacks in the league. The Lemon and Smith hamstring injuries, and that's kept them out the last couple of weeks, concerns me. Just, I'm very curious about this, because I have two more questions for you. One is a Mets question, but this one before we get there. Why are you not high on the Giants?
I don't know, like, so Harbaugh, I think, should raise the floor of this team, but I still think that they have some question marks across this roster. And, like, Jackson Dart had a really good rookie season, but I don't know if I trust him to be healthy for a full season with how he played. Like, he plays very reckless to me, and I
Yeah,
just worry about the injuries there. I think at receiver, Malik Neighbors is awesome, but what does he look like coming off this injury too?
yeah.
And on the defensive side of the ball, their defensive line is scary, and the that I think is going to be the best part of the Giants, is that pass rush. But I still think they could use a little work in the secondary.
All right, let's end it here, man, because you mentioned you're a Met fan. All of a sudden, they're winning some games when they don't count. Carson Bench, if the season were longer, might be in the NL Rookie of the Year race. So, what are your thoughts on how the Mets have played so far the last couple weeks?
Too little, too late for me, unfortunately. Really disappointing season. There were a lot of changes. David Stearns made a lot of changes to this roster. Pete Alonso out, Brandon Nimmo out, and all this. And it seems like every move he made seemed to blow up in his face, unfortunately. But the thing that I've enjoyed watching is some of these young guys come along. You mentioned Carson Bentz, Hewing as well, Nolan McLean, watching him get his starts as well. So I've enjoyed watching these younger guys, but still, it's they dug themselves too deep of a hole early on in the year.
All right, Matt. Yo, this was a lot of fun, man. Plug what you got coming up, because you've got the show tomorrow night. So just tell the people what you got cooking on your end.
Yeah, absolutely. So talking Jets every Tuesday night, 8 to 10 on that channel. I do daily Jets videos on my YouTube channel, Matt O'Leary NY, and getting ready for the start of the season here.
Yo, I appreciate you so much for joining. We'll definitely do this again. Have a great rest of your day and holla at me, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Ty.
Absolutely. That was Matt O'Leary, does a tremendous job. Shout out to him. I do see some people in the comments, so we will continue along as you guys want to talk. See Mitch 7042 says, as a Cowboys fan, it would be awesome to see the two New York teams be good at the same time. Listen, Jets, Giants, great at the same time. The last time that happened was 2011 with the Jets and the Giants. Christmas, it ruined my Christmas, ruined my damn holidays. The Jets and the Giants both playing for like playoff positioning. The Giants had to win out, the Jets had to win out, and it was the Victor Cruz 99-yard touchdown that sent my team packing. But yeah, it would be fantastic. It would be incredible to see both teams. I will say, because um you are a Cowboys fan, and I've talked about this. I'm high on your Cowboys, man. I am high on your Cowboys because that offense, as long as Dak Prescott is healthy, is going to be among the best in football. And they finished 7th in total offense, scoring offense last year, which is a little bit misleading because they were a point away from being second. So that just tells you the best teams in football were kind of stacked at the top. And as long as you're getting that production from that offense, and of course, I don't see why we shouldn't expect them to continue to have that. All you need is for your defense to be marginally better, marginally better. And so, can you go from being the worst in the NFL on defense to being, I don't know, anywhere from like 16th, 13th to 16th? Like, is that possible for Dallas? And then you look at, on paper, the roster, you draft Caleb Downs, Rashawn Gary pulls up, Quentin Williams gets his contract, so now he's there for a full year. And then, add in Von Miller, who I will say isolated, not raving about signing 37-year-old Von Miller, but with all that they've already done on defense and him coming in as a leader, as a champion, as a future Hall of Famer, I really like what they've done. Again, are they going to be the Broncos defense or the Chargers defense? No, of course. Are the Rams defense, the Texans defense, Seattle's defense? No, they're not going to be that. But I also don't think they need to be if their offense is going to be extraordinary, which I expect that to be the case as long as your quarterback stays healthy, because that has been the story of his career. And I do love, and I guess I don't want to jinx it, knock on wood, it's August 24th, so we still got 2+ weeks before kickoff. Not a lot of noise coming out of Dallas. Last year, your season got torpedoed because of the Micah Parsons stuff. And then throwing Kenny Clark, who's another piece on your defensive line. The Micah Parsons non-contract, and then right before the year trading him, that just sent you into a nosedive. And you haven't had anything like that. Pickens, that contract dispute kind of resolved itself pretty quickly, and it really hasn't been a lot of noise. So I really like this Cowboys team on paper, and I expect them to contend for the division. And if they win the NFC East, they're a player, man. Now it's a stacked conference, so maybe the East doesn't get multiple teams. I think that they will, but it's certainly a possibility that they don't. And so you might have to win your division just to get into the playoffs. And I think the Cowboys will be right there. See Mitch also challenging. I can't get my hopes up about my Cowboys until we win 2 straight playoff games, no doubt. This looks like the best team we've had in a long time. Seems like we say that every year. Yo, don't even go that far, bro. Like that's the problem, man. Like y'all fast forward to January talking about 2 straight playoff games. You got to get there first. You weren't in the playoffs last year. So how about you just focus on the regular season, take care of business. It's going to be a grind. And let me pull up this Cowboys schedule because right out the gate is it Washington? I believe it's Washington right out the gate, right? The four. No, obviously it's the Giants. Washington's week 2. I know it's the Giants. Sunday Night Football. Doing radio in New York. I know that. So right out the gate, I think they're gonna blast the Giants. I think they're gonna blast the Giants. I think they'll win week 2 against Washington. And so you're 2-0. Now you've got 3 straight tough games. The first 2 are against awesome defenses in Baltimore and Houston, and so those should be fun. But split one of those. Tampa, you can beat Tampa. At Green Bay, at Philly, that's tough. But then Arizona, Indy, San Francisco's they're in a world of trouble. If you see the news today about their owner, Tennessee, Philly, Seattle, Los Angeles, Jacksonville, New York, and Washington. So it's a tough schedule. Don't get me wrong. The layup games for the Cowboys, I think, have to. Is it just Tennessee? Now, look, I don't think the Giants. I think they'll blast the Giants, but going into it doesn't feel like a layup because it's week 1. But the only tomato can is Tennessee. So it's a tough schedule. All of these teams, it's a tough schedule. But again, I'm high on the Cowboys. I think they make the playoffs and they'll be able to make some noise. But before we get to winning 2 straight playoff games, how about you make the postseason first, and then you worry about winning your first playoff game before we say 2 straight? I'm not talking Super Bowl. I'm not doing that. All these shows will put up the lower third graphic. Can the Cowboys win the Super Bowl this year? Trying to gaslight y'all. Trying to get y'all fired up. It's cool. I'm not doing that. All I'm saying is I think that this can be a really good to excellent football team this year that does eventually make some noise. Now, they're getting to an NFC championship game for the first time in 30 years. I don't know. We got to wait and see because that NFC is a gauntlet. But let's crawl before we walk, C. Mitch. I appreciate you chiming in. Yo, we're hyped, man. It feels like we've been previewing this season for the longest. And we're almost there. Week 1. What a beauty. Giants, Cowboys, Sunday Night Football. Monday night, you've got Kansas City and Denver. What a beauty. I'm a Jet fan. And so people aren't going to really care about Jets Titans. But as Matt and I just talked about, for the organization, it's a massive game. I might go ahead and bet this already. I'm looking at the look-ahead line. Tennessee's favored by 3 points. I think I'm going to go bet the Jets money line right now. A couple of other, we start can I be honest? Pat Seahawks to start the year is a Super Bowl rematch. I get it. I don't really feel as fired up about that game as I should. As excited as I am for the football season. It's the opener. It's a rematch. And maybe because I wasn't exactly, all that juiced up for it in the Super Bowl, and it kind of went the way that we thought. I don't know, man. That game doesn't have all that much motion to me. I will say this about New England. They did trade for A.J. Brown. They did add Romeo Doubs. And so all this talk about them falling off of a cliff, they're going to nosedive, step back. I don't quite understand it outside of you telling me Super Bowl hangover. Vrabel had some off the field issues that, look, in the public's eye, based on what we saw at the Taylor Swift Travis Kelce wedding, looks like that has been rectified. But if by step back you mean New England's not going back to the Super Bowl, that's not that out there of a take. I still think the Patriots are going to be really good. And the Seahawks, they're the defending champs. Their second round pick just got hurt, which is a tough one for Seattle. But it should be a fascinating game. I'm more excited about Niners Rams And then, San Francisco, their owner, the hell is going on with you, bro? All that money you're worth, and you reduce yourself to paying 100 and allegedly. No, it's not alleged anymore, right? Because he pled no contest and he did his I don't know that we have to say alleged anymore. Anyway, the story is, all that money that you're worth, you reduce yourself to paying $140 to go engage in prostitution. Come on, fam. Come on, dog. Come on, my G. That is the textbook definition of congratulations, you played yourself. $140. He pled no contest to the charges, ordered to pay $1,150 in fines, sentenced to serve 1 day in jail for each charge that was served concurrently. 2 misdemeanors. Bam. What are we doing, dog? Oh, $160. Disorderly conduct. That man was spent the night in jail, engaged in prostitution. Fam, what's going on in the world? What do y'all? So some sites say 140, other sites say 160. Difference of 20. Regardless, it's still shameful. Absolutely shameful. You found yourself in a trailer as a billionaire engaging in prostitution. Bucks, Bengals should be fun to start the season. 2 quarterbacks that next offseason could be on the move. And Baker, who doesn't look like Tampa wants to give over $50 million to. And then Joe Burrow, who I don't know if you hear he's talking greasy. He might get traded next offseason. Saints, Lions. Jordan Tyson's hurt. That stinks because a lot of people were high on the Saints. Jets, Titans, as I mentioned. Ravens, Colts. My man Daniel Jones back from the torn Achilles. Jesse Minter making his debut for the Ravens. At worst, they got to be in the AFC Championship game this year. You've got the Falcons and the Steelers already memed Tua Tagovailoa against Rodgers and McCarthy in their swan song as a duo. Bears, Panthers. Why is that line at only 2.5 for Chicago? I might jump on that. Browns, Jags. Y'all saw Deshaun Watson got named the starting quarterback officially for Cleveland. And you can't convince me Todd Monken made that decision. That feels like it came down from ownership. And then you've got Jags coming off of what I thought was a successful season, could have won their playoff game against the Bills. Bills, Texans. Man. Bills, Texans. The Texans defense, who seemingly gives a lot of quarterbacks trouble, has given Josh a ton of trouble. They put that man in hell. So that's going to be fun. Raiders, Dolphins. I guess Kubiak technically has not announced that Kirk Cousins is his starter, but a lot of people are anticipating that's going to be the case. Packers, Vikings. What up, Kyler Murray? Commanders, Eagles. Should be fun. Cardinals, Chargers. Then we talked about Cowboys, Giants, and Broncos, Chiefs. So I'm hyped, man. The week 1 slate should be fun. Yo, shout out Seattle Jets. He says, nah, I care about Jets, Titans. Of course. I hope the Patriots get exposed. Yeah, man. I got to be objective here, right? Like, obviously, sitting here as a Jet fan, I'm not rooting for New England. But if I am to operate with objectivity, what I will say is I think the conversations about their demise have been premature. And I just don't anticipate that happening because a lot of what went right for them last year, they still have. They've got a quarterback who finished second in league MVP, and I don't think any of us believe that was some fluke. And they still have one of the best coaches in football. Yes, they played the easiest schedule known to man, so that's not going to repeat itself. But they've got layup wins against the Dolphins, and as sad as it is to say, they've got 2 layup wins against the Jets. That's already 4 wins, and so I don't think it's crazy to suggest the Patriots won't get to the Super Bowl. Like, it's hard to get to the Super Bowl. But missing the playoffs, I would be shocked if the Patriots did that. I don't want the Jets to go after you out of your damn mind, Seattle Jets. You wouldn't want the Jets. Now, look, if Burrow gets hurt again this season, I could understand your reservation, especially in the aftermath of what we saw from Rodgers. Though Rodgers was what, a decade older. How old is Joe Burrow? Rodgers was 39. Burrow's 29. Yeah, so he's a decade older. Was a decade older. But if he gets hurt again, I would tend to agree. Like, man, that has disaster written all over it. But if he makes it through a full season healthy, and once again their defense lets them down, and he's just tired of playing for Cincinnati, of course I'd take him. The reason why I'm laughing is, like, just think about the quarterback who's like, yo, I've had it with this organization. I want better. Give me the New York Jets. Said no one ever. But yeah, I'd take Joe Burrow in a heartbeat. I think you're out of your mind. I'd take Baker. I would 100% take Baker. I definitely take Joe Burrow. If things go sideways in Baltimore, give me Lamar Jackson. They don't want to pay up. I don't think it's going to happen. They already chose Lamar over John Harbaugh. So I think that situation figures itself out. And I expect the Ravens to be tremendous this year. But a man can dream, right? See, Mitch pulls up. My last question. How many games before you replace Geno with your second string quarterback? Also, just happy to have that football is back. I don't think Geno's getting replaced unless he gets hurt. Let me rephrase that. Early in the year, the only way you replace Geno is if he gets hurt. I guess toward the back end, if you want to evaluate what you have in your backup in Klubnik, and the Jets, let's say, are, I don't know, something like 2-12, like something ridiculous. 3-10, then he gets benched because, like, what's the sense in continuing to roll him out there if your season's cooked? Seattle Jets, we are cursed. He will get hurt week 1. Yo, I hate thinking about that. What the Jets could have been if Rodgers doesn't tear his Achilles, because they end up winning the game anyway. It is, and we have a long, rich history of this. One of the most painful moments for that organization. And as fans, like, how excited, how giddy we were. Like, that was supposed to be what the Knicks fans just experienced. Think about that. Now, the Knicks came together differently because it was 5 years of building, where you had Jalen and Bridges and OG and Hart and Mitch, and like that. That was a half decade of building, going from Tom Thibodeau to Mike Brown, Leon Rose as the architect of this whole thing. So it's different. What I mean by it was supposed to be like the Jets or like the Knicks hype and culmination is that the Jets had been building that defense for a minute. You had the weapons on offense. Now, the offensive line was bad. And you try to bring Tyron Smith to pull up to play left tackle, and that doesn't end up working out. But they had been building this team for years, and this was just like, all right, we're a quarterback away. Here we go. And then we learn we're still a quarterback away because the quarterback is hurt 4 plays into the game. Yeah, see, Mitch. It was terrible, man. It was terrible, bro. It was, the gut punch. Because you watch him go down, you see him try to stand up, and he's not able to do it. And you're just like hoping and praying. Can it just be like a sprained? Can it be something that's not season ending? They go on to win that game. Can we have a sprained ankle or a cramp? Something that's not season ending, franchise altering. But to Seattle Jets' point, we're cursed. Yo, this was a lot of fun. I appreciate you guys for the interaction. Check me out tomorrow, by the way. Nick Wright is on vacation this week. And so I, along with Damon Bruce, will be filling in on his podcast, the What's Right Show, tomorrow starting at 10:30 a.m., Thursday at 10:30 a.m., and then we've got a best of we're hitting y'all with on Friday. And so we're doing a lot of NFL, and then if some NBA news comes in, we'll get to that. But I would say predominantly talking football. So make sure you check me out on the What's Right Show tomorrow, 10:30 a.m., filling in for Nick Wright. Come holla at your boy. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like, share, and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Ty D Butler. I am going to be doing, I think I'm going to be doing I definitely will be doing a Sunday YouTube show before the games. Got to figure it out around church. So we'll be doing that and just continue to grow in this space. I'm on the radio on ESPN New York, so I'll be doing that this Saturday at 9 and Sunday at 8 a.m. So I got a bunch of stuff going on this week, and I appreciate you, Mitch. Sitting great podcast. We'll check it out. Yeah, I'll be doing some national stuff, and as long as you subscribe to the channel, and then follow me on Twitter and on Instagram, you'll see what I'm working on. And this show will be daily. And then, like I said, on Sunday mornings, I'll pull up and hit y'all with a little NFL preview, predominantly Jets and Giants, but we'll go around the league and talk about whatever you guys want to talk about, because it's football and everyone loves football, even talking about teams that they may or may not root for. So I appreciate you guys. Peace and love. Have a great rest of your evening. Deuces, y'all. Holla at your boy. Deuces.